Hey everybody, today I am inside the all-new F-150 Lightning. Let's take a deep dive into this large touchscreen infotainment system. You're going to find this in the top two trims, and I'm recording this in early May 2022. So obviously, software is going to change as Ford releases additional software updates. This software is based on what we find in the Ford Mustang Mach-E, but there are some important differences just for the Lightning. First, let's talk about the system layout. At the top of the screen, we have things like external temperature, status of the onboard cell modem, battery charge of the connected smartphone. We have an access button for apps in the system. There's also an Alexa button and a car button to take us over to settings and controls for the vehicle. We then have the main portion of the screen where apps like smartphone integration, navigation, that sort of thing, that's where that all lives. Also Sirius XM. If we were to pull that up, that would be right there in that center portion of the screen. We then have small shortcuts for the onboard apps right down here at the bottom of the screen, and you can make them smaller or larger depending on what you're doing. So if you want a slightly smaller infotainment app above, and then a slightly larger icon right there showing you what to do for the turn-by-turn navigation directions, etc., that's down there, and then you can scroll across from different options. At the very bottom of the screen, we have the climate control functionality and the heated and ventilated seats. As we see in the Mach-E, there is a knob for the volume, but this is not a true physical knob. It actually is just rotating some rubber bumps on the touchscreen surface. Moving over to Carplay for just one moment, this is one of the few vehicles that allows you to choose Carplay layout. So you can go for a landscape layout, or I can hit that button, expand it, and get a portrait layout, and you can do it on the fly without plugging and unplugging your smartphone. I don't know of any other system that allows you to have this particular choice. It seems like everybody else is either one way or the other. That same expand and contract button works for any of those apps down there along the bottom that supports that feature. Over here, we have direct access to certain vehicle settings, like phone, charge, personal profiles, etc. We'll see those in a bit. First, we should hit this icon up here, though, and talk about the integrated apps. So we have things like radio, phone, navigation. Those are all considered apps in the system. We also have Trip Energy that gives you basically what we find in the instrument cluster, but a different way to see it. You can also see where your climate control, driving accessories, etc., where those all have consumed the total energy that you've used. I've spent a lot of time today idling here in the sun, so climate control obviously has consumed a large portion of the energy. You should know that the Lightning does not have a heat pump, though, so that may be a little bit higher in winter driving than you might think. Going over here to games, there are a few onboard games. This is something that Tesla has done really well. You'll notice that these games are not quite as snazzy, not quite as, modern, I guess you'd say, as what we find in a modern Tesla. But there is a video game style traffic app right here, so you can run the truck into other cars on the screen, and then of course we get game over because I hit a few too many. One thing I would love to see in here would be streaming media like Netflix or Hulu. We don't find that at this moment. Clicking up here to the truck icon, we can adjust the vehicle's drive modes. This is the only way you can adjust the throttle lift-off regen. But unfortunately, it will also adjust throttle mapping and other vehicle settings with it. So we have normal, sport, off-road, tow haul. We can turn on and off one pedal drive, but there is no L or B mode in this vehicle. You can also lock the rear differential, which is an interesting twist because this does have a standard mechanical locking rear diff. Over here on the camera icon, we can see the 360-degree camera system, and you can turn on and off the parking sensors with that little button. Clicking on this option will allow you to adjust the camera view. So if we, for instance, just want to see the rear camera view, we can see the rear, the front 3/4, etc. there. You can see the bed camera, or you can have the 360-degree camera down there at the bottom. You can then hit the plus button and then enlarge, say, that camera view. Under Access, you can open and close the power front trunk, but oddly enough, no way to open and close the power tailgate. I do think that's an odd touch. Under Towing, we can see our trailers. You can select trailers from this list, the default trailer, no active trailer there. There's also a connection list, a trailer light check. If we hit this Add Trailer option here, you can enter a trailer. So we'll just go for test there, and then you can tell it what kind of braking you have. So default is electric brakes, brake effort, we'll say medium there. And then you can enter the length for the blind spot monitoring system, say 37 feet, the width of the trailer, 7 feet there, etc., the height, etc., and the gross vehicle weight rating of the trailer. We'll go for 5,500 pounds. And then once we confirm those options, the vehicle will save all of those defaults in there. The truck will use the data you entered here to try and calculate a more accurate range while towing, and then it's going to continue collecting statistics over time to make that estimate even more accurate as the vehicle gains mileage. Over here on Smart Hitch, you can see that we have the ability to tell it what kind of trailer we have on here, weight distributing hitch or conventional. And then using some load sensors in the vehicle, it's going to try and tell you how it thinks the trailer is balanced on the vehicle and whether you should have more or less weight on the tongue. This is part of the onboard scales package, which I have to say is pretty darn nifty in here. So with the onboard scales package, you can see how much weight you have left that you can add to the truck. Zero's down there, 1,675 is up there. That's the maximum rating for this particular vehicle straight from the factory. If you want to weigh something, you can go to the scale mode. You can then press and hold the reset button, and then you can add weight to the vehicle, and then it's going to zero out there. We have zone lighting to turn on and off the vehicle's lighting around the vehicle. Pro Power onboard, very similar to what we find in the hybrid model. So up front we have, so you can close that timeout warning there. Up front, you can turn on and off the zones in the vehicle. So you can turn off the Pro Power in the back, the Pro Power in the front. We have little warning messages that pop up there kind of annoyingly. And then you can see how much power is going on the front circuit, up to 2400 watts, and the A and B circuits in the rear, if I turn those on, up to the maximum of about 3600 watts. And the important thing to remember is that these are essentially two different inverters in the vehicle. So one can error out or have a fault and the other one would still be fine. Pro Power Reserve lets you tell the vehicle how much power you want to have left when it will turn off those loads being powered by the onboard inverter. You can choose a manual range, you can choose the default, or you can choose nearest charging station. Then you can drag this little icon around to tell it how much range you want to have left when the power gets turned off. Over here on the parking options, we have the automated parking system, and then we have parking sensors. Intelligent backup power is the ability for this vehicle to power your home, but that does require the Ford Charge Station Pro and the optional modules from Sunrun. That is not the onboard inverter, that's actually an off-board inverter that is integrating with the vehicle. Down here we have valet mode, so you can add a code there, and that way the valet can access the vehicle without the key. Ford splits some of the functions between controls and settings. So over on settings, we get things like sound settings, Sirius XM data, like your subscription information there is right under there, expires in 52 days. Over here we have the phones that are paired with the vehicle. You can adjust the vehicle's charging profile. A nice feature here is that not only can you set charging locations for various different charge levels at those locations, Departure and Comfort will also precondition the battery, which is a nice touch, and then one-time max charge will say, the next time that I plug it in, that's what I want to charge to, without interrupting those other charging settings. Under personal profiles, you can link a whole bunch of stuff to various different profiles, like memory seats, add photos, things like that, link key fobs, driver assistance, pretty self-explanatory. We have all the various systems in here, auto brake hold, pre-collision system, etc., driver alert monitoring. Under vehicle, we can choose things like the vehicle power down timer. That's kind of a nice touch that you can turn that on and off easily. As with other Fords, we have a door code keypad. This is where you would adjust that code, and tied with that is the backup start passcode. This is a really unique feature in here. If you have a door keypad code set and you have a backup start passcode set, you can enter the vehicle and then start and drive the vehicle without the key and without a smartphone. So if you want to go scuba diving or something like that and you don't want to lose your key, that's one way to get in and drive. General is where you'd adjust things like the vehicle's units. You can also check out your sync license and see what software version you're on. This is also where it would update you on the subscription for the Blue Cruise hands-free driving mode. The Alexa option is really interesting. Once it's set up, it's accessed via that little Alexa shortcut at the top, and it lets you do basically everything that Alexa would do at home in addition to navigation. Ambient lighting, that's pretty self-explanatory, but the ambient lighting is not as adjustable as some. You just turn it on and off, and then you adjust its brightness. Thanks for watching the deep dive into the F-150 Lightning's infotainment system. Again, this is pretty similar to what we find in the Mach-E, but critically some important changes for the pickup truck and some of the extra features that we find in it. Be sure and find the related videos over at alexandautos.com, of course over at EV Buyer's Guide as well. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so, and check out all the social media links. I'll see all of you later.